Greetings. I'm Jared Treadway, and this is episode 7 of the Lovejoy LoveCast. The LoveCast is a platform for me to share inspiration, insights, and ideas as I continue on my journey as a spiritual being having a human experience. It is my sincere desire that I may use my voice and share my experiences to serve you in your own journey. I want to be a cooperative component to the expansion and awakening of the collective consciousness. Or perhaps more simply put, I want to do some good in the world. The language of universal love and light underlies each transmission. In this episode, we will explore the energy centers of the human body and their relationship with underlying universal principles or laws. By understanding our physical bodies through this paradigm, we can learn to bring our energy into coherence and learn to be more aware when we are out of harmony. My first deep dive into coming to understand the universal principles was through the law of attraction teachings of Abraham Hicks and others. But perhaps the logical and inquisitive part of my mind wanted to understand the principles more deeply. So I opened up my field to receive more information on the subject. And the information in this episode has come to me over a period of time from a variety of sources, and I've synthesized the information, contemplated it, and tested it in my own experience. And I believe the principles are logical and universal for all of us. It is actually really interesting to realize that these principles are at work whether we acknowledge them in this way or not. The references to the energy centers of the human physiology that I'm going to present in this episode follow the 9-centered evolutionary model of the human design system. I'm also very grateful to Matthias De Stefano for his insights into different ways that the one universal law can be understood through several of these centers in the human body. And if you're not aware of Matthias or following his series Initiation on the Gaia Network, it may be worth taking a look. I'll also be incorporating some of Abraham Hicks' teachings, as well as teachings from Bashar, as channeled by Daryl Anka, and some information from the Gene Keys synthesis by Richard Rudd. Okay, so let's get into it. And we'll begin with the head center. The head center is where we experience mental pressure, like questions, doubts, confusion, and it's where we receive inspiration. In the physical body, it's associated with the pineal gland, which regulates the flow of information between the gray areas of the brain and the neocortex, or between the head and Ajna centers. Lots of our mental processes take place deep within these gray areas of the brain below our level of conscious awareness, and everything gets processed through our brain and filtered by our past experiences. The result is a mental pressure that manifests as questions seeking answers. And my questioning and seeking a deeper understanding of the universal principles is a perfect example. So related to the head center is the concept of the universal law of mentalism, which says that everything that you live is what you believe. The mind is designed to be a tool that can be used to help us become who we really are. And that's not necessarily what we think we want to be. The mind can be really good at tricking us into not self behavior. But when we use the mind as a tool to serve our higher purpose, that's when the real magic can happen. Next down is the Ajna Center. The Ajna Center is the location where mental consciousness, conceptualizing, interpreting answers, formulating opinions, concepts, and theories can happen. Biologically, the ajna is associated with the neocortex, the visual cortex, and the pituitary glands. Those little glands located at the base of the brain act as our body's maintenance headquarters and communicate back and forth with the thyroid. Associated with the ajna is the universal law of correspondence, which states that if you want to understand better what you've got going on within you, you may look without for evidence and ask, why this now? Because you are outside what you are within. Everything that we experience outside is the result of, or the expression of, what we are within ourselves. The outer world mirrors back to us what we are so that we can see. So if you don't like what you're seeing in the outer reflection, change your thought patterns or your beliefs on the inside. As Abraham Hicks says, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. Next, on our way down through the energy centers is the throat center. The throat center obviously is about communication and manifestation. But it's also about metamorphosis and transformation through interaction with the world, with the outside world. Biologically, it is associated with the larynx and the vocal cords, as well as the thyroid and parathyroid glands. These are endocrine glands that are responsible for transformation and digestion and the metabolization of energy. We create vibrations with our throat from the inside out, and these sonic waves emanate outward from our throat center. This center is associated with the universal law of vibration, which says that everything is energy and everything is vibrating. And the throat is a source of our vibrational emanation. The energy of what we say and the ideas that we voice is what we create. Or perhaps it could be said better that when we speak, our energy is contributing to the creation of something in the manifest world. As Matthias de Stefano says, the verb was the first action of the universe. When we speak, we create energy that emanates to the boundaries of the universe. Imagine that. So, ask yourself if the words you speak and the energy you are emanating is truly in resonance with who you really are and what you really want. Are you speaking from the heart? Do you really mean what you say? If you feel into this and see if you may be able to emanate from a higher octave when communicating or speaking about certain subjects. One of my favorite poets, the great Maya Angelou, says that words are things. She understood that words have power and they can soak into your wallpaper and your upholstery and into your skin and eventually into you. She had an amazing intuition about words, and she used her gift beautifully. I know in my own experience that I do pretty well much of the time, and when I find myself speaking negatively about someone, it does not feel good. If I focus for just a moment before doing so, I can usually raise my frequency relative to that person or a subject and tune myself in a way that serves us all better. So next is the G Center and the 9-center model. And according to human design, the G Center is associated with the liver and the blood. And the blood, of course, is the system that carries nutrients and oxygen to every organ and cell in our bodies. The G Center is about love. It's about identity and direction. And it's the seat of our higher selves. The energy of this center draws our life towards us. It attracts to us what is specifically ours to experience over the course of a lifetime. It's like a magnet with only one pole. This feels to me like the perfect moment to speak about the law of attraction. As articulated by Abraham Hicks, the law of attraction states that the essence of like unto itself is drawn. Life wants to be received by us and lived through us. To determine whether or not we are in coherence with this law, we can ask ourselves if we're in a state of resistance or a state of receptivity to everything that we are and all that we have coming to us. Our core signature frequency is always attracting what is uniquely ours to live. So no work or action is required on our part. If things aren't manifesting, it's not because we're not attracting. It's because we're actually keeping our manifestations away from us by throwing resistance onto our own path. The law of attraction is actually about letting go of those things that don't work for us, that we don't prefer, so that we can let in those things that do. Next, we move to the heart center. The heart center is associated with the stomach, the thymus gland, the heart, and the gallbladder. This center is about willpower, self-esteem, ego, and the material world. And it's associated with the law of rhythm. Everything in the universe has a pulse and a rhythm, and everything has a timing. Everything pulses from positive to negative, from outside to inside, from action to rest, from high energy or emotion to low energy or emotion. If your energy is high and you're vibrating at a high frequency, things can move very quickly for you. If your energy is down, or you're sad or depressed, energy may be moving more slowly. Both stages are an important part of life, and balance is necessary, or we may experience crisis. I definitely have. You can't fly high all the time, and we're not meant to. But we're also not meant to be depressed, and we're not meant to suffer for prolonged periods of time. Each of these phases has a perfect timing and rhythm, and our work is to tune ourselves into coherence with these natural rhythms. So we can ask ourselves, am I in coherence with the rhythms of my body? With the rhythms of the earth, the changing of the seasons? Am I in coherence with my higher self and the cosmos? I am one who has a tendency to be impatient. Waiting for things to happen or for people to rise to an occasion can lead me into a state of agitation. I also have some, what I'll call self-worth issues that have in the past led me to doubt myself and second-guess myself. And so sometimes I hold things back or hold things off until I perceive that I'm more ready. But sometimes I hold off for too long. So I just need to remind myself to be aware of my own rhythm and trust the rhythm and timing of things. The next center is the Solar Plexus Center, and it's the seat of spirit consciousness, emotional and social awareness, passion and desire, abundance of spirit, feelings, moods, and sensitivity. Biologically, the solar plexus is associated with the lungs, the kidneys, the pancreas, the prostate gland, and the nerve ganglia in our gut. This center is about emotional clarity and well-being over time. Our emotional bodies and desires are fuel for evolution and movement. As the seat of spirit awareness, the solar plexus center can be understood as the door for experiencing our oneness with the broader collective and the cosmos. I like the idea of the solar plexus being associated with the universal law of divine memory, or the universal law of cause and effect. Vibration and rhythm is conditioning everything that is happening to us in our lives. Every effect has a cause, and the cause is within us. Our solar plexus acts as a receiving dish. We receive ripples from the broader field or the Akashic ocean. As we emanate frequency, the ripples return back to us. This can also be understood as the law of responsibility. We have been conditioned to blame others or some outer situation for the experience that we're having. But this is a misunderstanding. We are each responsible for our individual experiences, and it serves us very well to operate from this perspective. To blame others or any outside condition for your inner well-being is to subscribe to the illusion that you can give your power away, and you cannot. You are the creator of your own experience. And the solar plexus is like a tuning fork for universal energy. Next, we move to the Splenic Center. The Splenic Awareness Center, with its primal fears for survival and well-being, is also a source of our lightheartedness and laughter, our spontaneity and daring. The Splenic Center is associated with our lymphatic system, the spleen, and the T cells of the blood, which act like little ears, noses, and tongues all over the body. They're always alert to make sure everything in our environment is healthy and in balance. The human design system teaches us that the Splenic Center is the oldest of our awareness centers, and it's responsible and was originally responsible for keeping us alive, ensuring our evolution. So, at that primal level, it alerts us to danger so we don't become someone else's lunch. Paradoxically, though, it's through this awareness center that we connect with other life, with all the other kingdoms and the elements. As we confront our fears and ultimately transcend them, we become aware of the oneness of all creation. We become aware that our sense of separation is an illusion. So this feels like the perfect time to talk about the law of oneness. In the words of Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka, the one is the all, and the all are the one. We each exist as an aspect of the Creator, and there's nothing we can do to change that. That which exists can never become that which does not exist. If you exist, then there is a reason for you exist, for everything in creation has a reason. Creation believes that we each have a purpose, and creation does not make mistakes. So, if you didn't need to exist as a differentiated being, then you wouldn't. Next, the Sacral Center. This is the center of power and fertility, vital life energy, responsibility, availability, and sexuality. Biologically, it corresponds to the ovaries in a woman and the testes in a man. All life on the planet is fostered by the creative life force energy of the sacral, and it's not just about creating life, it's also about the impulse to nurture life. Through the energy of the Sacral Center, we can understand the law of polarity. Everything has a polarity, a positive and a negative, a masculine and a feminine aspect. This phenomenon fuels movement. Everything is energetic, and momentum cannot develop without contrast or friction between those two poles, positive and negative. If you think about the sine wave or a roller coaster, the energy of the movement down through the trough of the wave is what creates the momentum to move back up to the apex. Both phases are necessary, and both aspects are within us, within all the cells of our body and within everything in the universe. Well, perhaps until we reach the higher dimensions, but that's for another time. Next, we have the root center. The root center is related biologically to the adrenalized pressure we feel from our adrenal system and the related hormones that sustain momentum for living. Basically, it's the pressure or stress from our root that provides fuel for sustaining evolution and life. Through the energy of this center, we can understand the law of generation. Everything changes, and everything is generated. And change is a universal constant. It's one of my favorite paradoxes. Change is a universal constant. A key here is to understand that nothing is destroyed. Everything is in the process of being born and reborn over and over again. Nothing ever dies. It just transforms itself. So, as Matthias de Stefano tells us in the Initiation series, and others have suggested it too, all of these laws or phenomenon or principles of the universe are really different ways of expressing the one universal law. And by turning our conscious attention to each of these centers, we become more aware of what we learn through that center. Each of the 9 energy centers has a specific correlation with biological functioning. And so it's logical to me to understand the correlation between the biological function and an aspect or a way of understanding the universal principle. From this beginning place of mentally understanding and contemplating these principles, we can begin to let them sink into our bodies and, over time, understand them with the whole of ourselves, our broader selves. Our understanding of these principles requires us to nourish not only our mental intelligence, but our physical intelligence, our spiritual intelligence, our emotional intelligence. When we do, And when we bring all of these centers and all of the cells of our physical bodies into coherent resonance, we may, as Matthias de Stefano tells us, become enlightened. I hope you've enjoyed this transmission, and I hope that some of it or all of it resonated with you. I'd love to receive any feedback, insights, or questions that you may offer. So please comment, and please feel free to share with your friends and family or anyone that you feel may appreciate being a part of this kind of conversation. This concludes episode 7 of the Lovejoy LoveCast. I'm Jared Treadway, and I'm sending you love and light until we meet again.